Ever get that feeling like you're talking but nobody's really listening? Or like, you're totally misinterpreting what someone else is saying?
Happens all the time, right?
Well, get ready, because today we're diving deep into the hidden truth of communication.
We're talking nonverbal cues, body language, the whole shebang.
And our source material is a YouTube video script that makes a pretty bold claim.
Oh yeah, this one's a classic. It says that only 7% of communication is actually verbal.
7%. Serious.
Yep. So get ready to have your communication game totally upgraded.
So we're going to unpack all the key takeaways, separate fact from hype.
And most importantly, help you, the listener, actually use this stuff in your own life.
Okay, so 7%. That means a whopping 93% is what exactly?
That's where things get really interesting. We're talking about all those nonverbal cues. Things like body language, tone of voice.
Even like where you're standing in a room can make a difference.
Exactly. This YouTube video we're looking at, it's structured like a mini lecture, kind of like those online courses,
Oh, yeah.
And it has these visual aids. Gets right into the nitty-gritty, starting with Dr. Albert Mehrabian's research.
Oh, the 738-55 rule.
That's the one. 7% verbal, 38% tone of voice.
And a whopping 55% body language.
Now, there are some limitations to this research. We'll definitely dig into those, but it really highlights just how powerful those unspoken signals are.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But it also kind of makes me rethink, like, every conversation I've ever had. Like, remember that time I was trying to convince my friend to go skydiving?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it wasn't my amazing arguments that failed, but, like, my nervous fidgeting.
Could be.
Yeah.
That's exactly why understanding these nonverbal cues is so important. It's not just about being a better speaker.
It's about being a better listener, too.
You start to pick up on all the things that people don't even realize they're communicating.
Okay, let's break it down. Starting with, I guess, body language. I've always heard about, like, power poses and all that, but what are some of the cues we should be looking for? Like, subtle stuff.
Well, this video points to posture as a big one. Think about it. You walked into a job interview, shoulders slumped, head down.
Ooh, not a good look.
What kind of message does that send even before you've said hello?
Definitely not the hire me vibe.
Right. It's not always about, appearing confident either. Posture can signal all sorts of things. Interest, boredom, even.
Dominance.
Exactly. The video even mentions how mirroring someone's posture can subtly build rapport.
Wait, so if I'm trying to, like, bond with my new boss, I should subtly copy how they're sitting. That's next level. Okay, what about hand gestures? I talk with my hands, like, all the time.
Fellow hand talker.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Gestures are powerful, no doubt. They can emphasize your points, convey emotions, even like regulate the flow of a conversation. Like, think about open gestures. Showing your palms, uncrossing your arms. That creates a sense of honesty, approachability.
Yeah.
But someone trying to convince you of something, hands tucked away.
Yeah, that's sus.
Right. Feels a bit shady.
It's like when you see politicians do that, like they're hiding something. Okay, posture, gestures, what about facial expressions? I mean, a smile's pretty universal, right?
A genuine smile. That's like communication gold. Instant warmth, openness.
Yeah.
Can totally disarm a tense situation.
For sure.
But even subtle expressions,
Yeah.
A raised eyebrow, pursed lips, those can speak volumes. The video even talks about micro-expressions. These are like these fleeting, involuntary movements that can reveal your true emotions.
Even if you're trying to hide them.
Even then.
Whoa. Okay, so it's like I could tell if someone was secretly annoyed even if they had this, like, fake smile plastered on their face. Sign me up for that superpower. What else does the video talk about?
Well, we can't forget about vocal tone. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah, for sure.
Imagine someone saying, "I'm fine."
Oh.
Flat, monotone voice versus a bright, cheerful tone. Same words, totally different message.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely been on the receiving end of the I'm fine, but with attitude.
Right. Speaks volumes. So tone matters. Volume probably too, right?
I would think so, yeah.
Absolutely. Volume, pace, even those little pauses you take can change the meaning of what you're saying. Speaking too softly, you might seem uncertain, rushing through your words. Could signal nervousness. The video actually uses the example of a job interview. Even if you've got all the right qualifications, if your voice lacks confidence, it can totally undermine your whole presentation.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got body language, tone. It's like we're building this whole communication toolkit here.
We are. And one of the most important tools in that kit.
Ooh, what's that?
Context.
Yeah.
It's the same phrase, the same gesture, can have totally different meanings depending on the setting.
Oh, yeah, like with your friends versus at work.
Exactly. The relationship between the people, even cultural norms play a huge role.
You're so right. I remember this one time I was traveling, and I thought I was being super polite by giving someone a thumbs up, you know?
Yeah.
Turns out, in their culture, that was like a big no-no. I was mortified.
Oh, no. Those cross-cultural mishaps, they happen all the time. Even something as simple as eye contact can have totally different meanings in different cultures. Like, in some cultures, it's a sign of respect, but in others, it can be like a challenge or even rude.
So we can't just assume that everyone speaks the same nonverbal language.
Nope. It's like traveling to a foreign country without learning any of the local phrases. You're bound to run into some awkward situations.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so this is already mind-blowing. I'm starting to realize just how much I've been missing in my own communication. And speaking of things we miss, the video also talks about these common misconceptions people have about communication.
Oh, yeah. There are a bunch of those floating around.
Where do we even start with that?
Let's tackle those in part 2 of our deep dive. We'll debunk some communication myths and get into how all this applies to your everyday life. Don't go anywhere, listener. The best is yet to come. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of nonverbal communication.
I'm ready to bust some myths.
You got it.
Last time, we were talking about how context can totally change the meaning of a message. Now I'm curious about what other communication misconceptions are out there, what really trips people up.
Well, this video tackles 3 big ones.
Okay.
The first one is a real doozy. It's the overemphasis on words.
Oh, yeah.
So many people think that if they just find, like, the perfect words, their message will magically get across. But as we've seen, it's just not that simple.
It's like you can't win a baking contest with just a recipe, right?
Oh, exactly.
You need those quality ingredients, but you also need to know how to use them.
That's a great analogy. And that's where that 738-55 rule comes in again. It reminds us that words alone, they only account for a tiny fraction of the overall message. Your tone, your body language, even the environment you're in. All of that plays a role in how your message is received.
Okay, myth busted. What's the next misconception?
This one's kind of a pet peeve of mine. It's this assumption that communication is universal.
Oh, tell me about it.
Like, everyone everywhere interprets things the same way. It completely ignores, like, the incredible diversity of cultures and how that impacts communication style.
I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
Do you remember that time I was traveling and I thought I was being all polite by giving someone a thumbs up?
Oh, no.
And it turned out that in their culture, that was like a big no-no. I was mortified.
Oh, those kinds of cross-cultural mishaps happen all the time. Even something as simple as eye contact, right?
Yeah.
Can have completely different meanings in different cultures. In some cultures, it's a sign of respect, and in others, it can be seen as like a challenge or even rude.
Wow. So we can't just assume that everyone speaks the same nonverbal language.
Nope. It's like traveling to a foreign country without, bothering to learn any of the local phrases. You're bound to run into some awkward situations.
Yeah, big time. Okay, so we've debunked 2 communication myths so far. What's the last one we got to tackle?
This one hits close to home for a lot of people. It's this misconception that we can totally separate emotions from communication, as if we can just, like, turn off our feelings and be completely rational all the time.
Oh, I wish it were that easy. I know that when I'm stressed, I tend to talk like a mile a minute. My voice gets all high-pitched. It's like my body's betraying my whole calm, cool, and collected facade.
That's a perfect example of how emotions can totally hijack our communication.
Yeah.
And it works both ways. Like, when we're not aware of the other person's emotional state, we might totally misinterpret what they're trying to say.
So it's like trying to have a serious conversation while you're riding a roller coaster.
Ooh, I like that.
Everything's all amplified and distorted, and it's hard to focus on anything but those overwhelming sensations.
That is a brilliant analogy. It really highlights how emotions can color our perceptions, and that can lead to big misunderstandings. The video even mentions how something as simple as being hungry, right, can make us more irritable and more prone to conflict.
I've definitely been angry before.
Haven't we all? Okay, so we've talked about all these misconceptions. Now I'm wondering how we actually apply this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
How can we use these insights to improve our communication in, like, real life situations?
That's a great question.
Well, that's exactly what the next part of the video dives into.
Okay.
Get ready, listener, because we're going to explore how all of these nonverbal nuances play out in our closest relationships at work, even when we're trying to, win over a crowd.
Welcome back. We're wrapping up our deep dive into nonverbal communication. And I gotta say, I'm starting to see the world in a whole new light.
It's like those hidden messages are just popping up everywhere, right?
Everywhere. But before we jump into the video's practical tips, something's been kind of nagging at me. We've talked about the power of nonverbals, but isn't there also a potential downside?
Oh, for sure.
Like, couldn't someone use this knowledge to, manipulate others? Or be deceptive?
That's a really good point. Like any tool, nonverbal communication can definitely be used unethically. Someone might try to project confidence they don't actually feel, or mask their true intentions with like a forced smile.
So it's like a poker game, everyone's trying to read each other's tells.
Yeah.
But how do we know what's genuine and what's a bluff?
That's where critical thinking comes in. We can't just rely on nonverbals alone to judge someone's character, right?
Right.
It's about considering all the evidence, their words, their actions, the overall context, and being aware of our own biases, too. What we might perceive as confident in one person could come across as, like, arrogant in another.
So it's not about becoming a human lie detector, but more about adding another layer of understanding to how we communicate.
Exactly. It's about using this knowledge responsibly, not jumping to conclusions, and always striving for that clear, authentic communication.
Well said. Okay, so let's get to those practical tips. The video gives us 3 challenges to help us put all of this into action. What's the first one?
The first challenge is all about self-awareness. The video encourages you, the listener, to spend a week paying really close attention to your own body language and tone. Do you notice any patterns? Do you, fidget when you're nervous, cross your arms when you disagree with something?
Oh, it's like holding up a mirror to our communication style. We might be surprised by what we see. I'm already realizing that I touch my hair like 100 times when I'm talking. Not exactly my most professional look.
We all have those unconscious habits, but by becoming aware of them, we can start making conscious choices about how we want to present ourselves.
So if I know I tend to slouch when I'm feeling a little insecure, I can make a conscious effort to stand tall and, project more confidence.
Exactly. It's about taking control of your nonverbals and using them intentionally to convey that message that you want to send.
Okay, challenge accepted. What's the next one?
Challenge number 2 is all about active listening. But not that fake kind where you're nodding along while mentally planning your grocery list. It's about really tuning into the other person's nonverbal cues. What are their eyes saying? How's their posture? Are their words matching their body language?
See, this is where things get tricky for me. I'm such a multitasker. Do you have any tips for actually, staying focused on those subtle signals?
It's all about being present in the moment. Put your phone down, make eye contact, and really focus on the person in front of you. Think of it like you're a detective gathering clues.
Okay.
Every gesture, every shift in tone, it's telling you something.
So if someone's saying they're fine, but their jaw is clenched and their eyes are darting around, maybe they're not so fine after all.
Exactly. And when you pick up on those little inconsistencies, you can gently probe a little deeper, show some empathy, and build a stronger connection.
This is seriously making me rethink every conversation I've ever had. Okay, final challenge. What's the last piece of the puzzle?
The last challenge can be a little daunting, but it's so valuable. It's all about seeking feedback. Ask a trusted friend or colleague for their honest opinion on your nonverbal communication style.
Ooh, see, that makes me nervous. What if they say something I don't want to hear?
It's about choosing the right person, right? Someone who's supportive but will also be honest with you.
Yeah.
And frame it as a desire to improve. Like, hey, I'm trying to be more aware of my body language at work. Any feedback on how I come across in meetings?
So instead of asking, do I look weird when I talk?
Yeah.
I should be specific and focus on growth.
Exactly. And be open to what they have to say. Even constructive criticism can help you become a more effective communicator.
This deep dive has been a total game changer. I'm really starting to see communication as this whole new art form, one that goes way beyond just words. It's about those subtle gestures, those unspoken emotions, the way we even take up space in a room. It's fascinating.
Empowering, right?
Yes.
Because once you understand the nuances of nonverbal communication, you can use it to build stronger relationships, navigate those tricky situations, and express yourself more authentically.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Knowing what we've learned today, what's one small change you can make to become a more intentional and impactful communicator? Maybe it's practicing better eye contact or paying attention to your tone of voice. The possibilities are truly endless.
That's a great question to ponder. And remember, even small adjustments can make a world of difference. So keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep those nonverbal cues in check.
That's a wrap on this deep dive. Yeah. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of, well, everything.